Hey guys, and sorry for not uploading Monday or Wednesday. Though, of course, as right now for me, it is Thursday, as it is 4:28 by the currently recording this. Anyway, so yeah. Alright, so this is part 1 to What If Naruto Became Female Because of Orochimaru. And let's get into this. So it would be, so when would someone, Orochimaru decide to potentially, kidnap Naruto? Well, I'm not really 100% sure, though I somewhat have imagined it being around his kind of 8th birthday. Well, not around his 8th birthday, it would be when he is 8 years old, doing doing the period of time where during the period of time where the academy is out for about the month and 2 weeks or 6 weeks, and yeah, so it'd somewhat of course be night, as even though Orochimaru had fled Konoha, there was still some places within Konoha that had some of his stuffs, still he still had some secret hideouts within Konoha that he kind of wanted to get his research and that out of there. And though he had been potentially thinking about an idea of maybe potentially going and grabbing a child or two and experiment on them, on potentially trying to see how to kind of actually alter their gender. He can alter the body easily now. Heck, he can transform himself into a snake, and not using the transformation, he can actually become a snake. So yeah, so you very much know how to do that, and you somewhat the kind of curious as sign. Of course, you'd think that when he got his immortal, his immortality jutsu, all that properly done, we'd be able, somewhat when he chose say a female, he'd be able to transform that female into a male, as he'd rather not go through monthly periods and that. He'd somewhat turn them into a male and then take over their body once the period was done. The period of time taken for their transformation to complete. Once it was done, he'd then take them over, and yeah. So he was thinking of potentially doing that, or just go screw it, somewhat, I'll live forever, I'll eventually get used to, having monthly periods and that when I take on a female, when I take control over, take control over a female host. And so that's what he was somewhat thinking about, as he'd end up, he's somewhat kind of seeing someone who he knew. Granted, that person didn't know him, and that person was very much Naruto. And the reason why he knew the child was quite simple. He'd, of course, been, in Konoha. So, granted, he wasn't necessarily in Konoha doing the 9 attack, but he very much, as he was out on a mission, all that. And though he very much knew that the child bore the 9 tails within him, and figured that if he was going to go with his idea, well, for one, they were probably definitely out of the academy for about a month or so, he figured. So he'd have at least maybe a week or two before the third would get kind of suspicious as to why, the Jinchuriki hasn't probably popped around or hasn't caused any ruckus. And he'd figure that if he's going to, do that idea, then now it would be he'd be the best bet. Sure, he'd be male, but surely if he could turn a male into a female, then it would just be the sort of, or at least it would be the sort of opposite for a sort of female, using, probably male genetic, or at least male sort of whatever, sort of instead of female to turn, a female male. And so after thinking about it for a bit, he'd sort of call out to the boy, to which sort of Naruto kind of look side to side, kind of cute, somewhat wondering who'd called out for him, but thinking it was no one, who'd end up laying sort of eyes on someone white, who'd slightly somewhat gulp, though he'd somewhat kind of tilt his head, to which the person would gesture for him to come forth, indicating that he was very much the one to call his name. So Naruto would get up and would go over, to which, once he'd somewhat arrive at the person, he'd ask if the person was a sort of ghost, though with, of course, some amount of fright in his voice, to which though the person, of course, Orochimaru, would sort of simply ask him if he could see through him, to which Naruto would blink and he'd shake his head, as he was about to sort of ask, Orochimaru would sort of point out that if you can't see through him, then he's clearly not dead, which would mean he's not a ghost. Naruto would blink and go, oh, right, yeah. And, well, they would somewhat talk for a bit, and, with somewhat, or at least, Orochimaru kind of convincing him that, that if he somewhat agrees to, or at least go with him, that he'd somewhat, or at least that the next time he woke up, he'd be in his bed, but as seemingly someone else, or that, he'd look different. And and while somewhat he figured, kind of why not, stop him from getting the glass, Naruto figured, so he'd agree to somewhat to it, which Orochimaru would then knock him out by a swift chop to the back of the neck, and from there Orochimaru would of course pick him up and would silently leave Konoha. And once he'd arrived back, he'd somewhat set Naruto down and pretty much would put straps down over him, and he'd somewhat, as he'd start, or at least potentially thinking on how to do so, he'd also somewhat ponder if it'd be a good idea if Naruto either stayed out or what, though he'd eventually decide somewhat against it, as well, figured that, Naruto already saw him, so the third was already going to know he was the one that, changed him into a female and all, so he'd think, screw it, Naruto didn't know where this place was, so so he'd released the jutsu sort on Naruto, which was keeping him asleep, and a few seconds later Naruto would open up his eyes, kind of confused, and he'd sort of look around, realise this wasn't his home, and he'd see Orochimaru, and of course from there, about a week would go by, as Orochimaru had been very much experimenting on Naruto, and Naruto was just in, or at least was just in some pain, well, either some amount of pain, but also scared, he was very much a test dummy for this, white ghost person, and so you could see, another seemingly something needle coming to her, and he'd start, trying to break free like all the other times, but it'd be, pointless, and he'd feel it as it would enter his skin, and and they'd feel the liquid sort of enter him, and seconds would go by, and Orochimaru would just go, another failure it seems, as he'd turn around, and Naruto would somewhat lower a sigh as he'd, though as more seconds would go by, he'd start feeling red, he'd start feeling hot, sweaty, and yeah. And then he'd start kind of groaning, moaning, before similarly started letting out almost a cry of pain. Orochimaru would sort of come back in thinking, one of his goons or that was, torturing him, but no, he'd kind of be confused when he'd sort of realise that, could it be working? And he'd sort of watch as Naruto would perceive to, be just in pure similarly agony. Though he would sort of see it as, Naruto was fully naked, that, his body would similarly start to shrink, his arms, his hands, his entire body would similarly shrink. He'd lose a bit of height, he'd definitely lose some muscle mass, and yeah, he'd sort of even watch as his, or at least as the boy's penis, Naruto's penis, would similarly as he'd sort of watch as it would, similarly shrink, in as he'd sort of watch as it would similarly construct a vagina, and of course as similarly it would similarly complete, he'd put his hand on Naruto's hand and some chakra into it. Some at least a basic, a very rudimentary idea of somewhat medical ninjutsu, as he'd be able to somewhat follow it similarly through, as he'd be able to similarly get an idea that it was continuing to expand, and as it continued to expand upwards the vagina into, of course, producing the reproductive system and all. Though after some time he'd figured, and after about a day or two, he'd figured that it was potentially done, so he'd decide and know that he should really put Naruto back in Konoha, as any day now that could be Anbu out hunting for, looking for the boy and that, and yeah, it would just make it a lot harder for him to just get in and down. So yeah, so somewhat taking similarly all these stuff off of Naruto, pick up the boy, now gal, and would go back to Konoha, putting him in his bed, and that would all in all take him about half an hour to an hour. And yeah, though unknown to him, it would take Naruto another 5 days upon that to finally wake up, as while he may have physically been complete, physically and more so internally, now somewhat female, the only thing that was kind of left that was still being shifted from male to female was the most complex part of the body, the brain. And yeah, though finally after the 5 days, Naruto's his eyes would he'd kind of wake up consciously, letting out a groan when he'd snap his eyes open, remembering, and he'd look around and he'd let out a sigh of relief, realising that he was home. Was that all just a dream, a nightmare? He'd guess it, potentially was. And so getting up, he would go, he'd go, and yeah, though he'd go into the or at least his kitchen, as for whatever reason his throat felt incredibly dry, like he hadn't drank anything for 5 or 6 or 7 days, and yeah, so drinking a good amount of water, and with that finally being satisfied, he'd go, as he'd feel the urge to very much go to the toilet, so he'd go into his bathroom, and yeah, he'd proceed to just pull down his trousers and his pants, and he'd turn around, and as he'd lower himself down, he'd end up stopping as he'd snap his head downwards as his eyes would go wide. And yeah, as he'd realise, as he'd just somewhat stumble out, I make girl, and yeah, he'd sort of realise what he'd believed to have just been a nightmare a few seconds ago was all actual, really had been seemingly somewhat kidnapped and being used as a guinea pig for something that turned him female, though now who's, or at least a gal, and that he was now back home. And yeah, he couldn't believe it, but yeah, though somewhat doing his shock, though his somewhat, or at least somewhat his body just by his somewhat legs, well, they decided to give out, so he collapsed onto the toilet. Yeah, not even noticing, though, finally so much like his head. And yeah, though, yeah, and I'm actually, when you sort of, when his sort of hands would go over his sort of stomach as he'd groan, as he'd be sort of in pain, and he'd realise that he really had to go pee. Though he'd sort of wonder how did one go pee as a girl, though he'd shake his head and he'd just, though his eyes were then sort of fluttering shut as he'd let out a sort of sigh of relief as he'd start to go toilet, go pee. After some time, he'd somewhat figure as he'd get up, figure that, well, because somewhat, with, or at least he'd somewhat figure that, well, it's kind of like sort of bum and you just wiped it, figured. After all, you couldn't exactly shake. So that's what he'd do. And from there, he'd of course sort of pull up his pants and that, and go over, wash his hands, and started go into his bedroom and would just get dressed. Still couldn't help but stare for a few seconds downwards before shaking his head, and he'd get dressed before running, once he was dressed and going to his front door, slipping on his sandals, to which all would be pretty much loose to a lot, well, they'd all be sort of baggy on him, a lot more baggy than what they were. And yeah, from there he'd run pretty much to the guy's office as he'd burst in going, old man, and he'd go, what is it, Naruto? As Naruto would shout that I'm a cow, and Hizen would just stare at Naruto, though somewhat, and yeah, though Naruto would kind of continue on saying that he became a girl and that, and yeah, Hizen somewhat, he'd momentarily think that he was joking, but hearing and seeing the actual look of confusion, fear, and well, mainly fear and confusion and that, he kind of slightly decided to kind of go along with it. So he'd ask his Zambu to, go fetch a female Ambu kind of Ambu medic into it, they would. And yeah, a few seconds later, she'd sort of arrive, to which Hizen, or at least would sort of get up. He'd tell Zambu to leave, to which she'd just kind of stare at him, though he'd say that she'd stay. And yeah, though he'd sort of just tell her, or at least sort of tell Naruto to tell her what he just told him, and he would then proceed to sort of leave, shutting the door. Naruto would just be confused, but once the door was kind of shut, he'd tell her that he pretty much became a female, or that, what he'd tell Hizen. She'd be sort of surprised, and those who'd sort of, from there she'd sort of ask Naruto to sit down on the couch, to which he he would. I should send Chakra to sort of, only she'd sort of flow medical chakra, sort of with doing jutsu sort on Naruto, and she'd realise that Naruto was pretty much actually just like a female, and that should be impossible. Naruto should very much be a male, yet his internal and external all look like a normal 8-year-old girl, like he was actually naturally born as an 8-year-old girl. And yeah, should someone ask if he had any idea who may have done it, to which he'd shake his head. He'd state that he, though that he kind of knew what the person looked like, to which he'd ask, what the person looked like, to which he'd end up describing, Orochimaru. And yeah, she'd be surprised at that. And yeah, and Naruto would kind of state that, the person was kind of using him as a guinea pig, or experimenting on him. And yeah, she'd just sort of nod, and she'd call Hiruzen back into it. She'd enter, and he'd sort of come over to it. She'd state that Naruto looked like a normal female, to which Hiruzen would go, so he actually is a high. He has become a girl haki. Everything is there. Does that mean high? Kage-sama, she could, even once she's old enough to. And yeah, Hiruzen would be surprised, and yeah, though he'd ask now, or at least just as he was about to ask, she'd Hiruzen offer, she'd state that the person was, to describe in Naruto's words, pretty much Orochimaru, to which Hiruzen would realise, and he'd go, and he'd end up letting out, saying Orochimaru, to which, yeah, though from there, they'd talk for a bit more, as he would then sort of leave, to which Hiruzen would then sort of write down, sort of on, sort of call his Anbu, or at least he'd, he'd sort of pull out from a desk a scroll and some ink and a brush, as he'd write down a message for Tsunade. Well, Tsunade is the best medic in all of the elemental nations, so surely she'd be able to potentially figure out how well he was clearly experimented on, but more so how, if possible, he could, she could potentially be changed back, potentially, maybe, hopefully, possibly not, but hey, and even if it wasn't possible, at least, he'd have a, second, and a more trusted, somewhat person check Naruto out. And yeah, so he'd write that down, and he'd he'd send it off, as he'd call his Anbu in, as he'd then call on Cat, to which would appear from the Anbu that came in, as Hiruzen would perceive to tell her to go, or at least with Naruto, to go shopping to get some new clothes. He'd be kind of confused, though, as he'd then perceive to casually, or at least somewhat say that he was going out, and that was why. She'd be surprised, though. She'd nod, because the other Anbu would be shocked and surprised as well. And yeah, so she'd leave, as she'd know that once she came back, she'd of course be informed on how Naruto actually became a female, now a girl. So from there, her and Naruto would leave, and yeah, and once they'd leave, he'd once the door shut, he'd tell his Anbu that what he was going to say next stays in this room. They do not tell anyone. This is a S-rank secret. Got it? They'd all say hi, and he'd tell them that Orochimaru had managed to infiltrate Konoha, kidnap Naruto, turn him into a female, and infiltrate Konoha again, and put Naruto in his own home for leaving. And they would realise they have failed after all, and Hiruzen would even say as much, that the Anbu, the elites of the village that, Naruto could beat, well, so could, simply Orochimaru, whom was, a lot more dangerous than, than Naruto. And he'd tell his Anbu to get the other Anbu that were available, as he's going to tell them all something. And yeah, they would nod. And so, from there, with Naruto, because Naruto Naruto would get clothes and that. At least would go clothes shopping and, well, yeah. Ironically, though doing one of that, only he was in talk. Mainly after the female man left, prior to him calling his Anbu in. He was in a told, or at least I'd somewhat kind of told Naruto that he really shouldn't be potentially wearing, orange or that, or that. At least to, wear kind of dark clothes, to which Naruto would kind of complain, something that fighters everyone hates in the orange, though he was in simply say that he doesn't, but it's not a colour that shinobi should wear, and that, though he'd put his hand up to stop Naruto, as he'd go, I'm fine with you wearing it within the village and even to the academy, Naruto, but the second you step out of those walls, the second you become a shinobi of Konoha, I do want to see you in a more darker colour, as, something that those bright colours could easily get you noticed from a shinobi, even if you're, say, trying to hide from a shinobi, your bright colours could easily give you away and you could die. You could give, your team's position away and die. Or you could live but your team could die due to you wearing bright colours, and you don't want that now, do you? To which Naruto would somewhat look away, though he would shake his head that he of course didn't want that. And yeah, so well, yeah, and so though from that though, you should remember that should figure that he had at least a bit of time after all. It wasn't like he was going to be becoming a shinobi anytime, soon. Still had a year or two before could, try to graduate. And, well, yeah, so those who would find themselves ironically being drawn towards a kind of, well, a kimono, a battle kimono, something like what, Kushina had worn, though I'm pretty sure Kushina's one was either something like red or that, but yeah, though this one would be something, of course, orange. And yeah, though you'd of course get it, besides on getting some other clothes as well, and yeah, though besides on that, the next day, to his surprise, a knock would come at his door. He'd say, come in, to which you'd see very much Tsunade enter. He'd be surprised that she'd come, not only kind of come back quickly, but this fast as well. And and she'd simply ask where was the brat, or the, kind of child that had seemingly changed to genders. And yeah, he'd tell his Anbu to go, to go get Naruto, to which they would. And yeah, there is knowledge Naruto should very much be awake now. And yeah, a few minutes later, and Naruto would walk into it. Tsunade, though, he'd kind of stare at Tsunade, and Tsunade would stare right back at him as, well, as Tsunade would immediately see and, or at least could seemingly, or at least see and kind of fill the aura that Naruto was kind of giving off, one whom was both physically and mentally female. Pretty much everything was that, biologically everything was female, but one whom believed that they were male, or at least somewhat kind of thought they were, or something like that, was male. And yeah. So from that though, because Hiruzen would try to introduce them, and including Shizune, to which I believe they would have the pig about this time. Then again, maybe they don't. Anyway, though, yeah, from there, though, yeah, she'd check something out, and yeah, she'd sort. Though she'd state like the sort of Ambu medicine had stated that Naruto was practically like a naturally born female, and that was nothing that was giving it away that she was once a male. Though sort of because large reserves indicate that she was very much an Uzumaki, like Hiruzen stated, granted half. And yeah, though she knew, of course, the only Uzumaki that was in the village, being Kushina, because it was her child, boy, or now girl. Anyway, yeah. Though from there though, she would. Or at least somewhat though, after a few minutes though, she would kind of get up and she'd say that, or at least she'd tell Naruto that she could sort of leave now. Yeah. She'd sort of nod and she'd say goodbye and would sort of leave. And yeah, he was would sort of ask if if there was anything kind of new to it. She would state that she was most definitely experimented on. And yeah, though his would say if she was, or at least somewhat, actually okay, or though to which she would just somewhat nod that she was, perfectly fine, a healthy female, a healthy girl, a healthy child. Which he would let a signed, of relief. And yeah, though you should say that. Though, if you're curious, if there was any potential for any, potential way to reverse it, if there is, I do not know it. So, sorry, somewhat, sensei, but Naruto will be living as a girl, but as a female for the rest of her life. Her life. He's sort of some disappointment, though he would nod as he would state that he'd figured that, but he, held up at least some small hope. And yeah, those who would state, if anyone, would know, of course, Orochimaru, but it was obviously highly unlikely he was, going to just casually tell them, or especially her, how to, reverse it. And yeah. And she'd say even by then, even if he does, would Naruto want to go back after all. By then, 10, maybe a year or two, maybe 4 or 5, goes by, and by then she'd already be sort of in, into her period, into puberty and that, so she may very much, think of herself as being nothing more but a female. And like a somewhat past her and probably, forgot about she was maybe, and potentially had forgotten that she was maybe once male. And yeah, he would nod at that, and yeah, they would talk for a while, and she'd stay in the village for a bit longer, just make sure that everything was okay with Sata and with Naruto. Though when she was leaving, she would sort of tell Hiruzen that when Naruto does start a period, to sort of tell her, I should sort of, come by to make sure everything, was, of course, truly okay with that side of things. After all, anything could happen. And yeah, he's a nod, and yeah, and so from there, well, a year would go by, as Naruto would now be 8, and she'd be saying somewhat, or he should be grumbling about having to somewhat, or he should kind of grumble about having to, actually, or at least go to school, mainly as certain Amber would actually come and very much, somewhat, was still very much watching her, very much, or at least Cat. And yeah, which was somewhat odd, which meant that it was something, something was definitely going to be happening today in class, something that she couldn't miss, seemingly. And so the old man had sent, Cat out to, make sure that she arrived, at the academy and didn't decide to, jump class or that. So yeah, those who would arrive, and after a few minutes should realise that, and a lot of the other, kids in the class would also realise, why were the boys? Why was, yeah. And yeah, they would be confused as a Medicine would somewhat walk in, and yeah, as she'd state that she'd be there, teacher to someone today, and well, yeah. And she'd do simply roll call, though she'd miss out all the males and only call upon the females. And yeah. And well, yeah, because and yeah, after doing that, she'd then tell them what today's lesson was, which would be about or at least what they'd potentially be going through, or at least some of these older kids, those of you that are 10 right now will be potentially either be going through this in the next be a couple of days, weeks, months, or even potentially within the next maybe year. And yeah, so this is what will be happening when, or at least you start your when you become kind of a teenager, and yeah, so it should tell them, or at least for the first, the the first third of the school day should spend telling them about the female, or at least puberty, what happened during that, so about periods and the reproductive system and that. Then of course break, then after some break she then showed them and talked about the male puberty, to which Naruto, and especially some of the other girls, or at least some of the other girls had claimed that they wished that they were some boys, as that seemed was somewhat a lot seemingly easier and that, and Naruto very much kind of somewhat hatred or that, or dislike for Orochimaru grew even more, as they'd never bothered to talk to that Orochimaru guy or that person. It'd still be a boy, and yeah, I think if she ever wanted family, she'd be the one bearing the child within her for 9 months before pushing it out. And yeah, though the last portion of the school day would actually be somewhat, or at least talking more so about the actual kind of where or at least where children actually came from, and how, or at least somewhat, why men had, penises and that. And yeah, And so by the end of the day, when the sort of bell went, those who'd go before you started to leave, as they did, cause sort of like potentially you used to have in school, of placed on condom over a dildo, though they've taken it off by now. And yeah, though should state that or at least that if they wanted to take the dildos home, they very much could. They'd be somewhat surprised, and some would be somewhat embarrassed, and that. And yeah, though one would and should sort of continue to state that in the hospital, like didn't obviously sort of need them at all for really anything like that. And yeah, though it was, and yeah, though so after hearing that, a few would take them sort of home, mainly 2 or 3 of them would. And yeah, Naruto would also take one home, simply just kind of why not, if they didn't need it, why not? Kind of somewhat deal. And yeah, and well, she was also somewhat curious to know what it actually somewhat felt like, and also actually have something go into our third, second, either third or second hole, depending on how you counted. If you excluded or included the mouth. And yeah, though somewhat after that, though that was also a reason why she's the medic instead said that as well some of the ones that took it were potentially had a higher chance of them being some of the ones to actually accept more so seduction based missions, and that ones that were more potentially fine with doing that kind of that sort of type of thing. And yeah, though of course he'd sort of been chosen, and he's had somewhat, well at least, she'd, though though he was indeed somewhat tell her that Naruto may seemingly do some stuff that may surprise her, as Naruto is a somewhat unpredictable person. And yeah, from there, or least Naruto would sort of get home in that, and would sort of take it out, and would somewhat put it just sort of on a shelf somewhere, and or at least would put it somewhere and would somewhat forget about it, as someone would leave to kind of tell someone, or at least hear about somewhat day, and to try and now figure out, or at least get him to sort of tell her what he meant by when someone you turn 9 or 10. And yeah, she was going to get that out of him now. After all, she now knew what or at least sort of why she seemed to have a sort of slit when, or at least sort of she once used to have a penis, and now she had a slit, and why that was a difference somewhat below. And yeah, and of course when she'd ask, Houston would sort of go, well, I guess I can tell you, as it won't hurt you finding out at least a few days somewhat sooner than the rest, as he'd perceive to sort of explain to her what they were sort of on about, or as someone to tell her about rapists and stuff like that. And yeah, anyway, from there though, 2 sort of years would pass. Oh well, no, not quite. Another easy sort of year would pass, though it would be a few months later, and of course something it would be coming up to the something it would be the day of the or at least the day on which they could sort the kids at 10, if they wanted to try and graduate, they become a shinobi early, they could try. Nobody did except for Naruto, Naruto was the only one that wanted to, try and graduate early, to which should fail, and though when she'd sort of arrive home, she'd somewhat kind of remember what she was actually meant to, or at least what she was kind of going to potentially do, or at least somewhat went on the day in which she'd kind of find out what was actually what, why she sort of had a slit and that, and yeah. So sort of going kind of into sort of her bedroom, and when she read, she'd feel a somewhat kind of heat, sort of just kind of flood over her. She'd sort of undress herself, and finally she'd sort of be fully naked as she'd go on her sort of bed, and she'd somewhat kind of lean forward, spreading sort of legs out a bit, and sort of using her things to pry apart her sort of vagina. She'd see the small, simply somewhat thing to which she'd something remember that was called the clitoris, which was also, or at least in men, what was the head of the sort of penis, and yeah. And she'd sort of start it for a few seconds before sort of her other hand, her right hand, would sort of come in and would sort of slightly stroke it, as apparently it was meant to be kind of sensitive and that, and well, yeah, it was sort of she'd sort of eyes would sort of flutter, sort of shut as she couldn't help but sort of loud, somewhat like groan, sort of moan, as it was sensitive, even more sensitive than like feet, and yeah, and she'd sort of keep on kind of simply stroking it, using both her sort of finger and thumb, and before long she'd sort of realise her eyes would flutter open as she'd sort of look down, as her thumb and that felt sort of wet, and yeah, and from there somewhat she'd kind of flatten out her sort of hand as she'd move her sort of left hand away, as her sort of right hand would sort of situate over sort of with her, of course, middle finger being in the middle, as she'd put a slight pressure on the middle finger as it'd ride within sort of vagina before finding the slight, or at least somewhat, and yeah, she'd pull it slightly back as she'd then feel her sort of middle finger go down, then up, though pushing it forward, or at least going forward slightly until she felt her middle finger go down again, finding sort of that it went down. She then proceeded to put some pressure onto it, and put more and more pressure onto it. She'd finally sort of end up kind of flattening her eyes shut again, and she'd allow her somewhat moan as she'd feel her finger, her mid finger, enter her. And from there, her sort of finger would proceed to just somewhat, she'd continue to put some pressure onto sort of finger as it would continue to slide in more and more, as she couldn't help but allow sort of moan as it just felt tight within. And yeah, it was a for real sort of feeling, and yeah. And she'd sort of kind of, pull it in and out, and it felt good, and yeah, and she'd sort of kind of pond, and she'd find her sort of thoughts, going over to what it'd feel like to actually have a, real kind of, sort of actually, dick, sort of penis, actually enter those. Something like that. I thought she'd snap her eyes open and she'd go, wait, don't I have that thing from, yeah, it's around here somewhere. So she'd pull her sort of finger out, and she'd, middle finger out, she'd go sort of searching for it, finding it, she'd take it into the bathroom and rinsing it off, drying it, and then come back into her bedroom, though by then she could already sort of feel, or at least sort of similarly, or at least the feeling, dying down, and also sort of getting back onto her some bed. She'd sort of, or at least do so once more, feeling it kind of slowly come back, and after a while, and once she seemingly somewhat, or at least felt like if she was at least either something, that it was either, now or maybe never, at least that, and she'd sort of kind of grab it and she'd sort of just stare at it and she'd kind of sort of maintain something that's not, that won't fit. She'd just sort of shake her head as she'd sort of tilt it down and she'd push it against sort of vagina, and I should put more pressure onto it, though she'd somewhat feel similar vagina, somewhat seemingly, reluctant, and she'd then somewhat let pressure off of it, though somewhat feeling then pressure starting to die down, she'd shake her head, damn it, and she'd somewhat let her side, she'd take in a somewhat deep breath as she'd proceed to double the pressure on it, as she'd put more and more pressure onto it, and finally it started to slowly, somewhat slide into it. She'd start to, and she could sort of feel it slowly sort of enter, and so as it sort of expand, though finally she'd sort of end up stopping. It still wasn't really in, the tip really wasn't in, but it was already wide enough. Her vagina was was already wide enough to a point where it was starting to actually hurt, and she'd somewhat be hesitant, but she'd grit teeth as she'd push it in more and more, and finally the tip would be in as somewhat a tear so would be as our eyes, though she'd continue to put pressure somewhat onto it as it slowly slid forward, and by the time it was fully in, she was very much in, or at least she very much had tears going down her face. It was just, incredibly painful for her, having it, well, very much, obviously being, very tight and all, and yeah, though the only reason why she pushed on was the fact that she knew that, later in life, if she did do it, something with a man or that, a child was, going to come through that hole. Granted, she'd be older, so the hole she'd figured would be somewhat bigger, but still, she'd figured it still wouldn't be somewhat, big enough to, casually and comfortably, push out a child. It would hurt. So if, a baby could fit in, could come out, then surely something, she'd figure that small, compared to, a child's head or that, and length could surely fit in. So yeah, it was the only reason why she continued to push it in. Yeah, though some seconds to a minute or so later, the pain would of course start to die down enough to as she'd start pulling it out, and as the pain would somewhat start up again, but the pain would be lesser, though as you'd pull it out, it would rub against her, so it would start generate some amount of pleasure, and so just as the tip was about to come out, she'd push it once more in, and as she'd feel the pain die away more and more, and the pleasure increase, or this feeling increase within her, and like a few some minutes later, she'd somewhat slam it. She'd somewhat slam it sort of in her. It was somewhat to somewhat things around the sort of dildo would grip it. Her other hand, the left hand, would grip the sort of blanket, so as while digging into the mattress, and her toes would sort of clench. Her back would arch, her eyes would somewhat be simply shut, and she'd sort of let her moan a sort of decently and she would orgasm. She'd experience her very first orgasm, and a few seconds later she'd be panting heavily as she'd somewhat cover, and yeah, she'd pull it out, letting out a somewhat kind of groan filled somewhat moan. Yeah. Though she just somewhat though, and yeah. From there though, a year would go by as she'd be somewhat about 10 years old. And yeah, she'd somewhat come back from the academy. Well, at least though it'd somewhat be night, and well, she'd somewhat be undressed, of course, as she'd just come from a shower, drying, or a bath and drying herself. Though she'd somewhat enter her bedroom and she'd somewhat stare kind of at her body, kind of just somewhat checking out to see, if anything had grown or that, as after all, around about apparently now, her chest all that was apparently meant to start growing or something like that. She remembered person saying about a potential year or so ago. And yeah, those sort of stand sideways, she'd note, she'd slightly looking at her, looking at herself in the mirror, she couldn't feel slightly odd. She'd step somewhat closer, and looking more closely, she'd realise a small, barely noticeable curve around her chest, and she'd put her hands around it, and indeed there was a small curve there, and she'd realise that finally growing, she'd somewhat say. And the next morning, after getting dressed and all, and she'd straight up skip the somewhat academy, as she'd somewhat burst in the Hokage somewhat office, going, they're finally growing. And yeah, he was somewhat would just be confused and go, growing? What's growing? What? And, just confused, somewhat out of his mind. And yeah, of course the somewhat Ambu, would be somewhat curious to know what was growing. And yeah, one of them, of course, Cat, would wonder somewhat what that would kind of be. She'd do something figure like the rest of them that it had to be, two things, as she said, there and growing. And yeah, though what would somewhat very much solidify and make her realise what Naruto was all about was when somewhat Naruto said that the girls in the academy could, finally all is somewhat, stop their teasing, and that as finally growing, his would kind of be still confused even with that tidbit of information, though Kat suddenly realised what Naruto was on about, and that her chest was seemingly finally growing in, which would mean about a month or so later she should experience her first period. And yeah, Izumi would still be confused and would go, no, still, what is growing, just say. So she'd kind of go, oh, right, on my chest, my breasts are finally growing. Izumi would sort of just stare kind of at her and would, I don't kind of think you should be telling me that, Naruto. She'd just tell her head and would go, why? And yeah, to her, he was, was a grandfather to her, so it was family, so she figured it'd be okay. He was a grandfather and she trusted him. And yeah. And yeah, so as they'd kind of stare at one another with Naruto kind of being confused, trying to figure out why she shouldn't, it'd click into his mind that Naruto may or may not know. They'd go, they'd sort of kind of explain that, or at least that she shouldn't really, tell any, mail or that. It's Naruto just standing and she'd go, oh, well, of course I didn't tell someone, random people that, my chest is now growing, all that. Usually just kind of stare at her, but of course I told you, old man, you're like grandfather to me. Or did you forget already? Oh, right, yeah, kind of. Yeah. Those who somewhat just shake her sort of had. You really are getting old. Old sort man, if you forgot that, and isn't somewhat, but just, yeah. Anyway, those sort from there. Though, yeah. So, and yeah, from there, it would be it should be kind of in class, very much waiting for Iruka to, move on from his speech to, tell them what team they would be on. And yeah, she passed well. She passed like she did in canon. After all, not much has changed, or at least not enough has changed to really change the outcome. Or at least the only thing I could see something somewhat changed would be that Imuzuki had not, or at least sort changed, sort stating that it's sort of vapor, sort of red raw before similarly, or at least in front of someone, Iruka, that would cut, and hurt Iruka enough that way he wouldn't be able to move, and that would then, rape similarly, something out of red raw, and then, kill her before killing, sort of, or at least, somewhat him. And yeah, of course, that would sort of run and that, and yeah, though, of course, same thing, like the ending where, so, that would end up, coming forth as you'd state, if you ever hurt my sensei, I'll kill you. Yeah, he said something, I can't quite remember what it was, where something that would end up stating that she'd, go kill him, or at least someone, should do it 1,000-fold, that should, say multi-shadow clone jutsu, producing 1,000 of herself, and yeah, that would all pretty much be the same. And with that, guys, I'm gonna end this part here. So if you have enjoyed this part, do tell me in the comments down below, guys. And yeah, so again, sorry for not uploading Monday or Wednesday, and yeah, guys, anyway, hope you guys have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you watch this, and good bye.